Hello, my name's Bill Eakey, and we're going to go through a relatively short yoga practice here today. And let's begin in a seated position. You might want to sit on a blanket, like I'm doing, or a block, in order to raise the hips up a little higher. Oftentimes that's more comfortable when the hips are up higher than the knees. Once you're in your seated position, close your eyes. Feel your sitting bones sink down into the mat or your blanket. Let the crown of the head reach toward the ceiling and the shoulders come down the back, straightening the spine. Breathe through your nose. Give your attention to your nostrils and feel the air as it comes in and goes out. Take a moment to notice if there are any parts of the body that are tight, muscles that are tense. We often find tension in the facial muscles around the eyes and the jaw, and in the hips, maybe the low back. Wherever you find muscles that are tense, try and loosen them, soften them, let them relax. And on each exhale, let the entire body get softer, sinking into the mat, while maintaining that straight spine. You can open your eyes. If I say to you, I want to open my heart, you might think that I mean that I want to be a kinder, less judgmental person. You might think that I mean that I want to be more empathetic, more understanding. Except in a yoga class, if I say I want to open my heart, you might think I want to move into a pose where I pull my shoulders back, arms back, chest spirals up toward the ceiling, and I open my heart. Well, today's practice will include a number of heart opening poses and moves, and I'm going to invite you to think about how you might apply that idea of opening the heart once you're off the mat, how you might apply that idea of opening the heart in non-physical ways. Let's begin with hands down by our sides. Start by raising both hands high up into the air. Pull through the arms. Feel the shoulders coming, stretching. While your hands are up, let's open and close the fingers. And let the fingers point straight up to the ceiling and bring the hands down by the sides. On an inhale, hands come up again. Gently close the fingers, make light fists, and rotate the wrists. And change the direction of your rotation. Come to stillness, let the fingers point up toward the ceiling and bring the arms back down, hands by the sides. Arms rise up again, pulling those fingers toward the ceiling, palms face. Stretch in the shoulders. Bend and straighten the elbows. The next time the elbows are straight, stop and let the hands come down to the sides. Once more, take the hands up high, palms face, fingers stretched toward the ceiling. Left hand comes to the mat. Right hand reaches high, high, high toward the ceiling. And then we bend over that left hand, stretching the right arm out over the ear. Now your gaze can be at the floor, straight ahead, or at that raised hand. And if the gaze is at the raised hand, you may have a tendency for that upper shoulder to pull back, for the chest to open, for the heart to open just a bit more. And come all the way up. Right hand comes to the mat. Left hand stretches high to the sky. And then we bend over that side. Once again, your gaze can be at the floor straight ahead or at that lifted hand. If it's at the lifted hand, pull the shoulder back. Spiral the chest, open the heart. Both hands come up high and then down to the sides. Extend the arms out, bend the elbows. The arms make a kind of a W shape. We're going to begin here by bringing the forearms together, or as close as we can get them. And when you get to this position where the forearms are very close, feel the stretch in the muscles across the upper back and shoulders. Then open the arms, pull the elbows and hands back, and feel a bit of a stretch across the front of the chest, opening the chest. Now, you don't need to do this motion very fast, but I want you to continue this opening and closing of the arms. As you do, feel that stretch or stretches. When the arms are open, feel that stretch across the chest. When the arms are closed, feel that stretch across the back. And if you can, especially for that stretch across the front, push those elbows and hands back a little further, opening the chest just a little bit more. Okay, let's do 4 more of these. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And let the hands come down. Let the shoulders come up, back, and down, up, back, and down, up, back, and down, up, back, and down, up, back, and down. Very good. Now make your way to your back. Once you're on your back, let the feet fall out for a moment. Hands might turn up toward the ceiling. Once again, see if you can find any muscles that are tense or tight, and intentionally let those soften and relax. Then bend the knees, bring the feet back into the position that we would normally be in for our bridge pose. We're going to move through a flowing bridge here. Feet are going to push into the mat. As the hips begin to come up, the arms raise up, straight up. The fingers are pointing toward the ceiling, and then the arms continue back till the backs of the hands come down to the floor. Our goal is to get the hips at their maximum height at the same time the hands touch the floor. Now we're going to begin to lower the hips slowly, raise the hands back up. Hands come forward and down. Palms are going to come to the floor beside the hips, and the hips and hands hit the floor at the same time. Again, we're going to lift up, hips come up, arms come up, arms are flowing overhead. Hips get to their maximum height as the backs of the hands come to the floor. Hips begin to lower, hands come up. Hands are coming down beside the hips. Hips hit the mat at about the same time the palms hit the mat. Once again, flowing bridge. Hips come up, arms come up and overhead. And down. Hips come down, arms come down. Hips and hands hit at the same time. One more flowing bridge pose. We're going to come up, hips come up, arms come overhead. We get to a high point, and we come back down. Very good. Let the legs go out long, and raise the arms overhead so that we're in a full body stretch. And we're going to move through a little flow here that will be good for the abdominals. It'll wake up our abs and strengthen our core muscles around the stomach. We're going to begin by bringing the hands around and grasping the knees, pulling the knees into the chest. We're going to release the knees, let the legs go straight up in the air, and send the arms overhead again. Hands come back down beside the hips. Legs go wide, feet away from each other. Bring the legs together. Then let the legs go wide once more. Bring the legs together. Arms go overhead. And then arms grasp the knees as I pull the knees into the chest. And return to where I started, a full body stretch. We'll go through that sequence once more. For my full body stretch, I'm going to grasp my knees and pull them into the chest. Knees rise, the feet rise to the ceiling, legs straighten as the arms go overhead. Arms come back down to the sides. Legs go wide. Legs together. Legs go wide. Legs together. Arms overhead. Hands grasp the knees, pull the knees into the chest. And then we end in our full body stretch. Very good. Bring the arms down by the sides, hands down by the hips, and roll over onto your stomach. Crossing your arms at the front of the mat and resting your forehead on those crossed arms. Bring the legs together. Bend the knees. Bottoms of the legs go up in the air. Soles of the feet face the ceiling. We're going to do a little bit of work here that'll be good for our hips and our knees. We're going to begin by taking the feet far away from each other, making a V shape with the legs. Bring the feet together. Open into the V shape. Bring the feet together. Open in a V shape. See if you can pull the feet a little closer to the floor on each side, and see if you can pull your heels a little closer to the torso and feel the additional stretch that creates in the legs and the hip. Bring the feet together, and one more time. Feet come apart. We'll hold this one just a little longer. And again, see if you can bring the feet toward the torso and pull the feet away from each other just a little more. And feet come together. Now, let the knees go out wide. The knees are still bent. Bottoms of the legs are still straight up. Soles of the feet still face the ceiling. This time I'm going to take my feet and cross them across each other in an X shape. Note which leg is behind and which leg is closer to the torso. Open the legs back up and cross the other way so that the other leg is now closer to the torso. Straighten the legs. Cross them again the first way. Pull the feet closer to the floor and closer to the torso. And open. And close again. Cross the other way. Once more on each side. Legs open. Cross the way we had them the first time. And legs open. Cross again the other way. Open the legs, let the legs come down to the mat. Bring the hands under the shoulders. Feet are together. Push the tops of the feet into the mat. Knees might lift up off the mat. And simply raise the chest, putting very little weight in the hands. In fact, you might lift the hands from the mat into a low cobra. Exhale, release, let the forehead come to the mat. Now I want to invite you to move to a cobra, but if low cobra is more your thing today, feel free to stay in low cobra. In cobra, I'll begin by pushing my feet into the mat and putting some weight in my hands and arms, keeping my hips on the mat and lifting my chest and head higher than I do in low cobra. And I can feel a more of a bend in my low back when I do that. And release, come back down. We'll move into child's pose. Put the toes together, come up and let the knees go as wide as the mat. Sink the hips back toward the heels. Bring the forehead down to the mat. Arms can be out in front. Arms can also be down at the sides with the hands by the ankles. That sometimes is a little more relaxing on the shoulders. I'm going to keep my hands in front today. While you're in your child's pose, once again, sink into the pose. Soften, relax any muscles that are tight. On each inhale, you might let the whole body soften. Now come up into tabletop. And here in tabletop, let's start with some cat-cows. Your wrists are under your shoulders and your knees are under your hips. Feet are flat on the mat. Gaze is several inches ahead of the hands. On an inhale, drop the belly and lift the head into cow pose. On an exhale, round the back, head drops, cat pose. Inhale, belly drops, head lifts, cow. Exhale, back arches, head comes down, cat. Inhale to cow. Exhale to cat. Now, continue to move through these two poses, letting your breath be your guide, letting your inhale guide you into cow, and your exhale guide you into cat. You might want to close your eyes to shut out any extraneous influences and simply focus on moving through cat and cow. If one of these two poses feels more comfortable, feel free to hold that one longer. The next time you come from cat pose back to neutral, stop. Now, move your left hand a little bit more to the center of your mat, under your face, and sweep your right arm up, twisting to the right, holding that right shoulder back, opening that chest, opening the heart. Now sweep the right hand under the left arm. You don't have to come down very far. Left arm can stay extended. And then sweep back up. Sweep down and under. Sweep back up. And once more down and under. Last sweep up on this side. Arm goes high. And then that right hand comes to the mat. Okay, other side. Right hand is in place. Left hand reaches up high. Left hand scoots under. Thread the needle. Left arm goes back up high. Pull that left shoulder back and thread the needle. Left shoulder goes up high. And thread the needle. One more time, left shoulder is high. And the left hand comes back to the mat. I'm going to change my orientation here so I'm facing the top of my mat. I'm going to flip my toes, lift my hips up and back, downward facing dog. Right foot lifts. Right foot comes through between the hands and left knee drops. And I come up into a low lunge. Now I'm putting my hands on my thighs to start, to get my foundation to feel steady. You have the option here of bringing your hands to the heart. If you do that, pull your shoulders back, or you could move to the full expression of the pose by raising your arms, pulling the shoulders back, and gazing up to the ceiling. Bring the hands down behind the back. If you can, pull the hands away from the torso, although it's certainly okay to keep the hands against the body. Shoulders will pull back, heart will open. Gaze can be up to the ceiling if that doesn't negatively affect your balance. Drop the hands, bring the hands around the front foot. Step back into a high plank. Push the hips up and back. Downward facing dog. Left leg lifts high. Three-legged dog. And then the left foot comes through, dropping the right knee. Coming up into a low lunge, hands on the thigh. Once again, feel your foundation. Make sure you're steady. Hands can come to heart center. They may certainly stay here. Or you can raise the arms up, pull the shoulders back, Gaze can be up to the ceiling. Now, if that affects your balance, look down to the floor instead. Bring the hands behind the back. Pull the hands away from the body if that's in your practice today. Shoulders will pull back, heart will open. Release the hands. Bring the hands flat to the mat. Drop the left knee, coming into tabletop. Turn the toes over. Push the hips up and back. Downward facing dog. Right leg lifts. Right leg comes through into our warrior one. Back leg and front leg or feet are on different tracks. Back foot turns out at about 45 degrees. Front knee is bent. Arms go high. Expression of the warrior one pose. Now you might take a moment and glance down at your knee and make sure the knee is over the ankle or behind it, but not in front of the ankle. We're going to bring the palms together behind the back, once again interlacing the fingers. And we're going to fold over that bent leg, bringing the stomach to the thigh or close to it, into a position, a pose called humble warrior. We let the head hang. If you can raise your hands away from the torso, that'll pull the shoulders back and open the chest. Plant the hands, step the right foot back so we're in a high plank. Remember that you can be on your knees if you'd like to do that. Push the hips up and back, downward facing dog. Left leg goes high, three-legged dog. Left leg comes between the hands and then we come up into our warrior one pose on this side. Left knee is bent, right foot is angled out, feet are on separate tracks. Shoulders and hips face the short edge of the mat. Hands can come to heart center, or the arms can go up. If you leave your hands at heart center, pull your shoulders back a bit to expand that chest, open the heart. Hands come down behind the torso. And we begin to fold over that bent leg, bringing the stomach to the thigh, keeping the hands, if possible, off the back, pulling the shoulders open, opening the heart. Let the hands come to the mat and come down to both knees. So we're in tabletop again. Come down onto your stomach. We're going to move into Sphinx pose. In Sphinx pose, we're going to be on our forearms. The forearms extend out in front. The elbows are under the shoulders. Palms are flat on the mat. My feet, tops of my feet, just like I do for low cobra, on my tops of my feet are going to push into the mat, raising my knees off the mat. And I'm going to raise my chest as much as is comfortable. I'm going to let the chest relax and sink down through the shoulders. Sphinx pose is both a good pose for relaxing, for resting, and for opening the heart. Come out of Sphinx by letting the forehead come to the mat, bringing the hands under the shoulders. Now, push back as if you were going to move into a child's pose. Keep the knees together. We're going to move into puppy pose. Puppy is a resting pose that also opens the chest, opens the heart. In puppy, we're going to keep the upper legs from knee to hip vertical, 90 degrees from the mat. I'll be on my forearms in puppy. My forehead comes down. Now check those legs, those upper legs, make sure they're vertical. Forehead comes down, and I let my weight come down through my chest and shoulders. Feel free to play around with your positioning here until you get to a place where you're comfortable. Come back up into tabletop. Shift your hips back to your heels. And then swing the feet around and come down onto your back. Send both arms away from the torso in T or cactus arms. Bend both knees, feet flat on the mat. Let both knees fall to the right. And let your gaze go out over the left fingertips if that is not uncomfortable today. And as always, sink into the pose. If you identify any parts of the body that are tight or stretched, see if you can relax those. Let the knees come back up straight. Drop the knees over to the left. If you choose, your gaze can go out over the right fingertips. You might find tightness in this pose in the shoulders, low back, and hips. Let the knees come back up. Hug the knees into the chest. This will be our last pose for the class today. Gently rock side to side. Come to stillness, let the feet find the mat. Then stretch the legs out long. Palms can be face up, down by the hips. If you'd like, you may spend the next several minutes resting in our resting Shavasana pose. Eyes closed, body relaxed, feet fall out. And you may come out of Shavasana whenever you like. I want to remind you just that we spend some time today working on poses that oftentimes open the heart, expand the chest. So when we talked about opening the heart today, we were talking about poses where we pulled our shoulders back and our chest went up toward the ceiling. I want to invite you again to think about ways you might apply that concept of opening the heart off the mat.